Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network. Today we're zeroing in on a crucial intersection of technology, power, and global stability, Pakistan's evolving nuclear and missile capabilities. We've sifted through a rich collection of analyses and reports on this, and our goal is to help you cut through the complexity and understand what's really happening here and why it truly matters. We're embarking on an in-depth exploration of the sources you've shared, aiming to distill the most vital insights from this incredibly dense topic.
Indeed. And what becomes immediately apparent from our sources is the profound transformation Pakistan's nuclear posture has undergone, particularly over the last decade or so. We're not just looking at the hardware today, but delving into the strategic thinking that drives these developments, and perhaps most critically, the implications they carry for regional and even, global stability. We'll trace the historical roots, examine the current capabilities, and confront the inherent challenges that come with wielding such powerful arsenals.
Okay, let's kick things off right at the very start of this journey. Our sources make it pretty clear that Pakistan's pursuit of nuclear capabilities wasn't simply about power projection, was it? It seems fundamentally rooted in profound security concerns. A story deeply intertwined with intense historical conflicts and a precarious geopolitical landscape.
That's absolutely right. The core motivation for Pakistan's nuclear weapons program is firmly anchored in its conflicts with India. The 1971 Indo-Pakistan War stands out as really a seismic event. Pakistan suffered a devastating defeat, losing significant territory.
East Pakistan becoming Bangladesh.
Exactly. Effectively more than half its population. This cataclysmic loss left the nation feeling profoundly vulnerable, internationally isolated, and convinced it could only truly rely on itself for ultimate security. That deep-seated sentiment was then dramatically amplified by India's subsequent nuclear test in 1974, famously codenamed Smiling Buddha. It was in this climate that former Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto made his now legendary declaration. "We will eat grass, even go hungry, but we will have our own nuclear bomb." This wasn't just rhetoric. It underscored a commitment at the absolute highest levels to acquire nuclear capabilities as an undeniable matter of national survival.
So if we look back even further, before these pivotal events, Pakistan's policy wasn't actually geared towards weaponization, correct? It was more focused on peaceful nuclear energy initially.
Precisely. Prior to 1971, Pakistan indeed maintained what was an initial non-weapon policy. The focus was squarely on the peaceful applications of nuclear energy. This was even facilitated in part by U.S. assistance, flowing from the Atoms for Peace program, which included the provision of the PRI research reactor, commissioned way back in 1965. So that early phase was about scientific development and energy, not bombs. However, the crushing defeat in the Bangladesh Liberation War in '71, coupled with India's '74 nuclear test, fundamentally and irrevocably altered this strategic calculus. In January 1972, almost immediately after the '71 war, Bhutto initiated Project 706, delegating its swift execution to Munir Ahmad Khan, who was then the chairman of the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, or PAEC.
Okay.
And that marked the official clandestine launch of their weapon program.
And once that political decision was made, how did they even begin to tackle the immense scientific and engineering challenges? I mean, building a bomb from scratch, what did that early scientific groundwork involve?
Well, a truly crucial step in this initial phase was the establishment of the Theoretical Physics Group, or TPG, in December 1972. This elite group, led by the Nobel laureate Dr. Abdus Salam, was essentially their think tank for bomb design.
The brains behind the operation, so to speak.
You could say that. Their task was to undertake the incredibly complex mathematical modeling and calculations necessary to understand precisely how a nuclear explosion would work. Think about it. This involved delving into the intricate physics of a nuclear chain reaction, understanding fast neutron calculations, applying advanced principles of relativity, complex hydrodynamics, how fluids behave under extreme pressure, and quantum mechanics, all needed to design the weapon.
That sounds incredibly difficult, especially back then.
The challenge was immense, especially considering the near-total absence of computerized numerical control, CNC, facilities at the time. This meant much of this foundational work was done with slide rules, calculators, and just sheer intellectual horsepower. Munir Ahmad Khan himself famously remarked, "If the Americans could do it without CNC machines in the 1940s, why can't we do the same now?" It really speaks volumes about their determination. Dr. Tufail Nassim, with his PhD in mathematics from Cambridge, spearheaded the high-performance computing and numerical analysis, supported by other brilliant minds in the PAEC's mathematics division. The program analyzed two primary weapon designs: the simpler gun-type fission weapon and the far more technically difficult implosion nuclear weapon.
And they went for the harder one.
They ultimately committed to the implosion-type design.
Hmm.
It requires more sophisticated engineering, sure, but it offers greater efficiency and flexibility in warhead design down the line.
Turning such a profound national commitment into a real-world nuclear capability, it requires more than just political will, though. It demands an incredible organizational effort, building institutions, rallying brilliant minds. So once the decision was made, who were the key architects and organizations that actually built this program from the ground up?
This is where we see a highly centralized and remarkably disciplined organizational structure emerge, designed for absolute secrecy and efficiency. The Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, PAEC, was foundational initially under Munir Ahmad Khan.
Right, you mentioned him.
Beyond just plutonium production, PAEC diversified into vast areas of nuclear research. They even conducted 24 cold tests between 1983 and 1994.
Cold tests. What are those exactly?
They're non-nuclear tests. They allow engineers to test the conventional explosives, the lenses, and the compression dynamics of a warhead design without an actual nuclear detonation. It shows a methodical, long-term approach to weaponization.
Okay, makes sense.
Then you have the Space and Upper Atmosphere Research Commission, SUPARCO. They didn't just focus on space exploration. They emerged as the core for solid-fuel ballistic missile development.
Ah, recognizing the link between rockets and delivery.
Exactly. They knew you needed both parts of the puzzle.
And beyond those initial players, what other organizations became instrumental as the program matured?
As the program expanded, the National Engineering and Scientific Commission, NESCOM, came into play. Think of it as a massive umbrella organization. It administers various defense development programs, including the National Defense Complex, NDC, and the Air Weapon Complex.
NDC and AWC.
NDC, in particular, is credited with reverse engineering existing ballistic missiles and developing new ones, showcasing their indigenous capabilities.
And then there's AQ Khan, a very famous or maybe infamous name.
Indeed. Abdul Qadir Khan, or AQ Khan. He joined the program in late 1974 and became instrumental in advancing uranium enrichment technology. He drew on his expertise gained from Urenco in the Netherlands. He led the Khan Research Laboratories, KRL, which focused on producing highly enriched uranium, HEU.
The other path to bomb fuel.
Correct. He made HEU feasible for weaponization by around 1984, and KRL's HEU was, in fact, used in the Chagai tests in 1998, a testament to his pivotal role.
With all these complex scientific and engineering efforts spread across different organizations, how was this entire endeavor managed and controlled at the national level? Who had the ultimate say?
Right? Command and control is critical. At the highest strategic level, the Strategic Plans Division, SPD, was established. This isn't just an administrative office, it's the operational heart. It's in charge of developing and managing Pakistan's entire nuclear capability, and it serves as the secretariat for the ultimate authority.
And the ultimate authority is?
That's the National Command Authority, NCA, established in 2000. It's chaired by the Prime Minister. The NCA is the supreme decision-making body for nuclear policy, overseeing both the development and the potential employment of these weapons. It's a structure designed for very centralized control.
Okay.
Under the NCA, the Army Strategic Forces Command, ASFC, administers the Pakistan Army's nuclear command and control mechanism. They handle the actual training, deployment, and activation of nuclear missiles.
So the military execution arm.
Essentially, yes. And finally, you have the Inter-Services Public Relations, ISPR, the military's media wing. They act as the public face, issuing press releases on missile tests and other related developments. This intricate web of organizations and key personnel reveals a deep-seated national commitment and a command structure designed for absolute secrecy and centralized control. It allows for rapid, unilateral decisions on nuclear matters.
Which is quite different from how some other nuclear powers operate, isn't it?
It is. It underscores their strategic independence and, well, their unwavering resolve.
Let's shift now to the very core of their nuclear program. How do they actually create the fuel for these weapons? What are the specific technical processes involved in producing fissile material?
A truly critical insight here is Pakistan's unique dual-path approach to fissile material production. Unlike many nations that specialize in either uranium enrichment or plutonium reprocessing, Pakistan has pursued both simultaneously.
Both uranium and plutonium. Why is that significant?
It gives them unparalleled redundancy and the strategic flexibility to rapidly scale their arsenal and diversify warhead types in ways few other nations can. It's a silent testament to their long-term vision and commitment to a robust deterrent.
Can you elaborate on their uranium enrichment process first? What facilities are involved there?
Certainly. For uranium enrichment, the primary facility is the Khan Research Laboratories, KRL, located at Kahuta. This site utilizes a cascade of gas centrifuges to produce highly enriched uranium, HEU.
The AQ-Con connection again.
Exactly. As we discussed, he's widely credited with making this HEU production feasible by 1984. And it was KRL's HEU that was ultimately used in Pakistan's initial nuclear tests, the Chagai test in May 1998. The process itself is immensely complex, involving incredibly precise engineering and detailed calculations to separate the fissile isotope uranium-235 from the more common uranium-238. Our sources indicate that Pakistan initially explored various enrichment methods, gaseous diffusion, jet nozzle, even molecular laser isotope separation techniques before settling on gas centrifuges as the most viable and efficient path to military-grade HEU.
A huge engineering challenge to master on their own.
Absolutely, a significant indigenous achievement.
And what about plutonium production? How does that complement their HEU efforts, and what scale are we looking at?
Right, the plutonium route. The Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, PAEC, developed the Kushab reactor complex.
Yeah.
This is a strategically vital facility. The initial reactor, Kushab-1, has a thermal capacity of 40-50 megawatts. What's particularly significant is that it was built almost entirely indigenously. Pakistani scientists and engineers contributed to about 82% of its construction.
Wow, that's impressive.
It became operational in April 1998, just before their nuclear tests, and it's capable of producing an estimated 8 to 10 kilograms of plutonium per year.
Enough for
At least one nuclear weapon annually from that reactor alone. But what's truly striking, and revealed by satellite imagery, is the ongoing construction of a second, third, and even a fourth reactor at Kushab.
4 reactors?
Yes. These additional reactors could potentially allow Pakistan to produce enough plutonium for, well, an astounding 40 to 50 nuclear weapons a year.
50 a year. That's a massive potential increase.
It indicates a huge and ongoing expansion of their fissile material production capabilities. It signals very ambitious long-term plans for their arsenal. Furthermore, the electromagnetic separation of this plutonium takes place at the new laboratories near Pinstek, close to Islamabad. And crucially, these facilities are not subject to International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, inspections.
So, hidden from international oversight.
Allowing for a significant layer of secrecy around their plutonium stockpile.
Okay, so bringing all this together, this aggressive fissile material production, both HEU and plutonium, what does it mean for the actual size of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal? How many warheads are we talking about, and what types have they developed?
Well, when we put this into a broader context, Pakistan's estimated stockpile is a genuinely significant factor in the regional power balance, and its rapid growth is certainly noteworthy. While the exact number remains a closely guarded secret, recent authoritative analyses provide some pretty strong estimates.
Such as?
For instance, the 2023 Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists and the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency's 2025 Worldwide Threat Assessment both converge on a figure of approximately 170 nuclear warheads as of 2024.
170.
Roughly. And what's more, projections indicate that this number could potentially increase to around 200 by 2025.
So still growing and growing relatively fast.
It reflects a consistent, ongoing, and arguably aggressive expansion of their nuclear inventory. These aren't just static numbers.
And when did they first publicly demonstrate this capability to the world? Remind us about the tests.
Pakistan officially conducted its first nuclear tests in May 1998, right after India's test that same month. On May 28, 1998, they carried out the Chagai tests, detonating 5 nuclear devices simultaneously in the Roscoe Hills in Balochistan. These tests registered a seismic signal of 5.0 on the Richter scale, with a claimed total yield of up to 40 kilotons.
5 devices at once.
Yes. AQ Khan later asserted that one of these devices was a boosted fission device, meaning it used a small amount of fusion fuel to significantly increase the fission yield, while the other 4 were sub-kiloton nuclear devices, possibly designed for battlefield use. Just 2 days later, on May 30, 1998, they followed up with the Chagai 2 test in the sandy Karn Desert, also in Balochistan.
Okay. And regarding the types of warheads they have now, what do the sources say?
Our sources suggest they have developed operational warheads in the range of 20-25 kilotons, and also more powerful 150 kiloton designs. These are characterized by their low weight and compact designs, which is crucial for fitting them onto their various missile systems.
Right. Miniaturization is key.
Absolutely. There's also speculation about even larger size warheads, maybe in the 300-500 kiloton range, but that's less certain. The suspected inclusion of tritium-boosted weapons from that Chagai 2 test is particularly interesting. This technology can increase the yield by 300–400% without a proportional increase in size or weight.
More bang for the buck, essentially.
In a manner of speaking, yes. This diversification in both yield and physical design is absolutely crucial for their strategic flexibility. It allows them to tailor their response to different scenarios.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the delivery systems. How are these warheads actually delivered? Pakistan has clearly invested heavily in a variety of land-based systems to ensure multiple options, aiming for a robust deterrent.
This brings us to a crucial aspect of their posture: the ranges and types of these delivery systems, and how they contribute to Pakistan's layered deterrent strategy. Their land-based arsenal is quite extensive, featuring both ballistic and cruise missiles. Pakistan currently has 6 types of nuclear-capable surface-to-surface ballistic missiles that are operational,
6 operational types.
and another 3 actively under development. This diverse portfolio allows them to strike targets at varying distances, from the battlefield right up to strategic ranges.
Can you walk us through some of those key operational ballistic missiles and their capabilities? Let's start with the shorter range ones.
Certainly. At the shorter end, there's the Abdali, also known as Hadaf-2. It's a road-mobile, single-stage, solid-fuel missile with a range of 180 kilometers. ISPR, their media wing, praises its varied maneuverability, saying it offers an operational-level capability for the battlefield.
Okay, 180 kilometers. What's next up?
Then you have the Ghaznavi, or Hadaf-3, another road-mobile, solid-fuel ballistic missile, this one with a range of 290 kilometers. Interestingly, it bears a striking resemblance to a Chinese DF-11 variant. It entered service around 2004 and has been frequently tested, signaling its reliability.
The China connection again. And further out.
The Shaheen, or Hadaf-4. This is a solid-fuel, single-stage ballistic missile with a range pushed out to 900 kilometers.
900 kilometers, that covers a good chunk of India.
It does. This missile also appears to be a scaled-up version of the Chinese DF-11, and its range was notably upgraded to 900 kilometers back in 2013, significantly expanding its reach into India.
And their tactical nuclear capability on land, the Nasser missile you mentioned earlier, how does that fit into this operational picture?
Yes, the Nasser, or Hadaf-EX. This is indeed a pivotal development in their arsenal. It's a 70-kilometer range, surface-to-surface, solid-fuel tactical nuclear weapon, or TNW. Very short range.
70 kilometers, that's battlefield range.
Exactly. It's described as a quick-reaction, shoot-and-scoot missile, meaning it can be fired rapidly from a mobile launcher and then quickly relocated to avoid counterattack. Very hard to target preemptively. It's believed to have been deployed since around 2013 and has undergone 8 tests, which emphasizes its operational readiness in their view.
Okay, moving to the longer-range operational system.
Right. The Gauri, or HAT-VV, has a range of 1,300 kilometers. Now, this one is unique in their arsenal.
How so?
It's Pakistan's only liquid-fueled ballistic missile system. It appears similar to North Korea's No-Dong-1 missile. The inherent vulnerability of liquid-fueled systems, they require hours to fuel before launch. Making them fixed targets for a period likely explains why no other liquid-fueled missiles have been developed by Pakistan after it.
Makes sense. Stick with solid fuel for mobility and quick reaction.
Precisely. And that brings us to the Shaheen II, or HAT-4X. This is a solid-fuel, road-mobile ballistic missile with a formidable range of 1,500 kilometers. This system is explicitly aimed at achieving what they call full-spectrum credible minimum deterrence. It provides significant regional reach.
That's a truly extensive operational arsenal already. What about the missiles still in development? What does that tell us about their future ambitions?
The missiles currently under development are perhaps even more indicative of their expanding strategic reach and sophistication. The Shaheen III, for instance, boasts an impressive claimed range of 2,750 kilometers. This is their longest-range missile currently discussed publicly.
2,750 kilometers, that's significant reach.
It is. It's a road-mobile, 2-stage, solid-fuel system. Pakistan claims it brings all parts of India under its range and significantly can reach deep into West Asia, reportedly including Israel. It's apparently mounted on a Chinese-origin transporter erector launcher, or TEL-L, for mobility.
And the Shaheen 1A.
The Shaheen 1A is essentially an extended-range version of the Shaheen, but incorporating advanced guidance systems for improved accuracy, so more reach and hitting the target more precisely.
Okay. And then there's the Ababil. That's the one with the MIRV claim, right?
That's the one. The Ababil is a 2,200-kilometer range, 3-stage, solid-fuel ballistic missile. Crucially, the Ababil is claimed by Pakistan to possess MIRV technology multiple independently targetable reentry vehicles.
Explain MIRV again for our listeners. Why is that such a big deal?
MIRV allows a single missile to carry multiple warheads, each capable of hitting a different target. This profoundly enhances its ability to penetrate missile defenses. It's much harder to shoot down multiple incoming warheads than just one. It also complicates any adversary's counterstrike calculations. It's a major force multiplier if they can make it work reliably.
A true game-changer technology.
Potentially, yes. There's even speculation, though less confirmed, about an intercontinental ballistic missile, the Tamer, with a truly massive range of maybe 7,000 kilometers being under development.
An ICBM. Wow. But that's more speculative.
Yes, our sources note this is less confirmed than the others. But the overarching emphasis across all these developments is clear. Road mobile, solid fuel systems. They're relentlessly focused on mobility, survivability, and decreased preparation time, all critical elements of a robust and resilient nuclear force.
Beyond ballistic missiles, what about their land-launched cruise missiles? How do they fit into this land-based capability?
Good question. Their ground-launched cruise missile, or GLCM, inventory includes the Babur, also known as HAT 7th. This has a range of 700 kilometers. This is a subsonic, terrain-hugging missile. It features advanced stealth capabilities, specifically designed to fly low, avoid radar detection, and sneak under defenses.
With a Tomahawk-style missile.
Yeah, similar concept, yes. And notably, its storage facility at the Arabian seaport of Ormara has undergone massive expansion recently, signaling its growing importance in their planning. There's also an extended range version, the Babur 21B, also with a 700-kilometer range reported. This incorporates even more advanced aerodynamics and avionics, making it capable of striking targets on both land and sea with high precision.
And you mentioned these cruise missiles suggest miniaturization success.
That's right. These cruise missiles, being much slimmer and more compact in their ballistic counterparts, strongly suggest a successful effort in warhead miniaturization, most likely leveraging their plutonium-based designs, which are generally easier to make smaller, to fit into a smaller form factor while still delivering a powerful nuclear punch.
So beyond land, Pakistan is clearly developing capabilities for air and sea delivery as well, aiming for that complete nuclear triad. How are they progressing on these fronts, and what does this tell us about their strategic goals?
What becomes apparent here is the sustained effort towards miniaturization that the design of some of these missiles suggests. Miniaturization is absolutely critical for enabling diverse deployment across air and sea platforms. This isn't just about having more options. It's about building a truly robust and survivable nuclear triad. That makes their deterrent much more flexible and resilient to a potential first strike.
Let's start with their air-launched capabilities. What do our sources say about their air-launched cruise missiles and the aircraft that would carry them?
Okay, on the air-launched front, Pakistan has the Triad, also known as HAT-8. This is an air-launched cruise missile, ALCM, with a range of 350 kilometers. Like the Babur, it's a subsonic, terrain-hugging missile, equipped with stealth capabilities and high maneuverability. It's designed to deliver both nuclear and conventional warheads from an aircraft.
And they have a longer range version, too.
Yes, the Triad 2. This boasts a 550-kilometer range and has been tested. It significantly enhances their air-delivered strategic standoff capability.
Standoff meaning?
Meaning their aircraft can launch the missile from safer distances, further away from enemy air defenses, and still hit the target. While not definitively confirmed by the sources we have, there's speculation about its integration with their JF-17 Thunder aircraft.
And what aircraft can deliver nuclear weapons for Pakistan?
The Pakistan Air Force, or PAF, reportedly has 2 dedicated units operating 78 JF-17 Thunder aircraft. These are believed to be a preferred vehicle for nuclear weapon delivery due to their modern capabilities. The PAF also operates a fleet of F-16 fighters. They received 18 more in 2012, and these F-16s are confirmed as nuclear capable.
F-16s are American planes. Did the U.S. allow them to be nuclear capable?
It's an interesting point. Our sources indicate that while the U.S. typically requires specific permission for modifying F-16s to carry nuclear warheads, the U.S. has historically given both Pakistan and Israel implicit permission to modify their F-16s for this purpose, a sort of look the other way policy.
And again, the design of Rabid points to miniaturization.
Exactly. The slimmer design of both the Babur GLCM and the Triad ALCM, compared to their ballistic counterparts, provides strong evidence of their success in miniaturizing warheads, most likely using plutonium for greater efficiency in a smaller package.
Okay, what about the sea-based leg of the Triad? This would be critical for a truly credible second strike capability, wouldn't it?
Absolutely critical. The Pakistan Navy is developing the Babur 3, which is a submarine-launched cruise missile, or SLCM, with a reported range of 450 kilometers. This is essentially the sea-based variant of the Babur 2 ground-launched missile. It has been successfully tested from underwater platforms, according to Pakistani announcements.
Launched from a submarine.
Yes, its operationalization would provide Pakistan with what they term a credible second strike capability. This is paramount for deterrence. It ensures that even if an adversary launched a devastating first strike against Pakistan's land-based nuclear assets, the submerged submarines, hidden beneath the waves, could retaliate. That guarantees mutual destruction and hopefully deters any initial attack.
Which submarines would carry it?
The Babur 3 is designed to be incorporated with their Hangar-class submarines, which are relatively new, and also potentially their older Augusta 90B class submarines. Some of these are reported to have been modified for this purpose. Furthermore, there's a strong indication, though details are scarce, that Pakistan may also be seeking to build its own nuclear-powered submarine eventually.
A nuclear sub. That would be another huge step.
A very ambitious one, yes. Our sources don't clarify if substantial work has commenced on that front yet. But the extensive development of these air and sea-launched systems unequivocally highlights Pakistan's commitment to diversified, survivable delivery options, striving for a full and resilient nuclear deterrent triad.
Now, this next point from our sources introduces a really fascinating and potentially dangerous shift. Pakistan's emphasis on smaller, tactical nuclear weapons, specifically the Nasser, this fundamentally changes the game, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it raises a critical question about the implications of these shorter-range systems for overall deterrent stability and, crucially, for escalation control in a crisis situation. The Nasser, or half-size, as we noted, is a 70-kilometer range, surface-to-surface solid-fuel tactical nuclear weapon, TNW. It's explicitly described as a quick reaction weapon and a shoot-and-scoot missile system.
Shoot and scoot, meaning mobile and hard to hit back.
Exactly. It can be fired rapidly from a mobile launcher and then quickly relocated to avoid counterattack. It has undergone 8 tests, according to reports, and is believed to have been operationally deployed since 2013, indicating a high level of confidence in its readiness from their perspective.
So what's the core strategic rationale behind developing a weapon like Nasser with such a short range? What specific scenario is it designed to address?
Its primary purpose, according to Pakistani statements and analysis in our sources, is to add deterrence value at shorter ranges. More specifically, it's designed to directly counter India's Cold Start doctrine.
Remind us what cold start is again.
Cold Start is an Indian Army strategy, or perhaps concept, designed for rapid, limited conventional attacks. The aim is to conduct swift incursions into Pakistani territory, achieve limited objectives under what they perceive as Pakistan's nuclear threshold, thereby preventing a full-scale Pakistani conventional response or allowing for significant territorial gains before Pakistan could mobilize fully.
So Nasser is meant to stop that kind of limited attack.
That appears to be the thinking. Pakistan's strategic calculus revolves around the belief that the demonstrable capability to use low-yield nuclear weapons on the battlefield can effectively increase their conventional deterrence. They appear willing to, quote, pay the price, even taking tactical risks, to make nuclear deterrence more effective at the conventional level, rather than waiting for an existential threat to emerge.
So potentially using nukes earlier in a conflict?
That's the implication. The Nasser is also claimed to have the ability to defeat anti-tactical missile defense systems, further solidifying its intended role in immediate battlefield scenarios. This shift fundamentally introduces complex challenges for both sides, particularly in terms of preventing rapid and uncontrolled escalation.
Stepping back a bit, what's the overarching thinking behind all these weapons? How does Pakistan plan to use them? Or perhaps more accurately, how do they plan to deter their use? Our sources indicate a very clear evolving strategy here.
Right. Putting this into context, Pakistan's nuclear doctrine has indeed seen significant evolution. They've incorporated terms like secure second strike capability, which we discussed with the sea-based leg, and also full spectrum deterrence. Historically, Pakistan has maintained a doctrine of minimum credible deterrence. This is fundamentally different from a no first use policy, which some other nuclear powers like India and China officially adopt.
No first use means you promise never to use nuclear weapons first in a conflict.
Exactly. Pakistan doesn't make that promise. Instead, they explicitly state they will use any weapon in its arsenal to protect its interests in the event of an aggressive attack. This deliberate ambiguity is designed to sow uncertainty in the minds of Indian decision-makers, keeping them guessing about the exact red lines.
So minimum credible deterrence is their foundational stance. But what does this newer concept of full-spectrum deterrence add to that? How does it expand their options?
Full-spectrum deterrence is essentially an extension or maybe an elaboration of that foundational doctrine. It aims to deter India across all levels of the threat spectrum, leveraging their varied ranges of missiles from the tactical Nasser right up to the strategic Shaheens. This doctrine specifically includes the integration of tactical nuclear weapons, like the Nasser, for potential use in limited conventional warfare scenarios.
Using nukes in a conventional fight.
The idea is to develop counter-force targeting options at the lowest level of engagement. What this means is they're designing these smaller nuclear weapons to hit specific military targets on the battlefield, like advancing tank formations or artillery positions, rather than just large population centers, which would be a strategic strike. Their overall approach is an asymmetric nuclear posture. They don't aim to match India tank for tank or plane for plane conventionally, because they likely can't. Instead, they aim to use the nuclear threat as the primary defense against India's superior conventional forces.
Relying on the ultimate weapon to make up for conventional shortfalls.
Precisely. This thinking is summarized by a chilling statement often attributed to Pakistani strategists. The wider the conventional asymmetry, the lower the nuclear threshold.
Meaning, the bigger India's conventional advantage gets, the quicker Pakistan might feel forced to use nukes.
That's the stark logic, yes. This very high-stakes gamble on deterrence.
Given this doctrine, what exactly would trigger a nuclear response from Pakistan? Have they defined clear red lines for nuclear use? It seems crucial for understanding their strategic calculus and avoiding miscalculation.
This raises a profoundly important question. Under what specific conditions might Pakistan actually consider nuclear employment? General Khalid Kidwai, who was the long-serving Director General of Pakistan's Strategic Plans Division, a central figure in their nuclear program, outlined specific red lines in a seminal interview back in 2002. These conditions offer invaluable insight into their thinking about escalation thresholds, although they are quite broad.
Can you detail those red lines for us? What are the scenarios that could, in their view, justify nuclear use?
Kidwai identified 4 primary thresholds. The first is a space threshold. If India attacks Pakistan and conquers a large, significant part of its territory, this is about preventing a massive land grab.
Okay, losing territory.
The second is a military threshold. If India destroys a large part of either Pakistan's land or air forces, essentially dismantling their conventional defense capabilities, leaving them defenseless.
Losing their army or air force.
The third is an economic threshold. If India proceeds to the economic strangulation of Pakistan, for example, by blockading its ports or destroying its key economic infrastructure, causing collapse.
The economic strangulation.
And finally, a domestic destabilization threshold. If India pushes Pakistan into political destabilization or manages to create large-scale internal subversion within Pakistan, leading to chaos.
Political collapse or internal revolt.
Exactly. These broad categories cover existential threats ranging from military defeat to economic collapse and internal breakdown. What's critical to note, however, is that even Pakistani strategists themselves have openly acknowledged that the introduction of tactical nuclear weapons taxes the strategic stability and could jeopardize deterrent stability.
So they recognize the risks involved in their own strategy.
It indicates an awareness, at least on some level, of the inherent dangers their evolving doctrine poses. It potentially increases the likelihood of rapid and unintended escalation in a crisis.
With such powerful and potentially destabilizing weapons, security is absolutely paramount. What measures are reportedly in place to protect Pakistan's nuclear arsenal from theft, sabotage, or unauthorized use?
This brings us to the fascinating aspect of the sheer scale of personnel involved and the layered approach to security that Pakistan claims to have implemented. Pakistan consistently asserts that its nuclear security is the strongest in the world, maintaining that there is absolutely no capability for radical elements to steal or possess these weapons. They claim to operate a robust regime supported by multi-layered mechanisms to secure their strategic assets.
That's a strong claim. What are the specifics of these internal security measures? How do they actually protect the physical assets?
Well, our sources indicate that between 120,000 and 130,000 people are directly involved in Pakistan's nuclear and missile programs.
130,000 people, that's an extraordinarily large number.
It is. It underscores the extensive human resources dedicated just to maintaining security and operating the program. Physically, the nuclear assets are stored in various dispersed locations. And crucially, they are not stored directly with their delivery vehicles, like the missiles. This separation adds a critical layer of protection, A single strike or infiltration couldn't compromise both the warhead and its means of delivery simultaneously.
Separating warheads from missiles. Smart.
Yes. They also heavily employ road-mobile missiles, which are harder to target, use state-of-the-art air defenses around their strategic sites, and various concealment measures to enhance survivability and prevent detection. As of 1998, reports suggested Pakistan had at least 6 secret storage locations for its assets, and it's widely believed there are significantly more now, with their precise locations largely unknown even to the U.S. intelligence community.
And what about preventing an unauthorized launch or accidental use? What safeguards are in place for the warheads themselves?
To prevent unauthorized use, Pakistan is believed to employ sophisticated code-lock devices on its warheads. These are essentially electronic locks that prevent detonation without the correct sequence of authorization codes.
Like the PALs the U.S. uses.
Similar concept. While they famously turned down the offer of Permissive Action Link, or PAL, technology directly from the U.S., possibly due to concerns about hidden dead switches or external control mechanisms, they are widely believed to have developed and implemented their own indigenous version of such a system. It's also highly probable that a 2-man rule or even a 3-man rule is in place for critical steps in the launch sequence.
Meaning multiple people have to agree to launch.
Exactly. This would involve multiple authorized individuals, perhaps a launch team commander, a representative from the Strategic Plans Division, and a head technician, all needing to confirm the orders before any action could be taken. Furthermore, to ensure their second strike capability, they've constructed hard and deeply buried storage and launch facilities. These are designed to survive an initial attack and be available for retaliation, thereby contributing to deterrence.
So, on paper at least, a comprehensive set of measures.
It highlights a serious, layered approach to securing their nuclear arsenal, based on their official statements and observable measures.
Despite Pakistan's strong assurances of robust internal security, external reports, particularly from the U.S., have consistently raised concerns over the years. How has the international community responded to these worries, and what steps have been taken?
This reveals an ongoing tension between Pakistan's self-assessment of its security and persistent external worries about potential instability and proliferation risks. Since as early as 2004, the U.S. government has reportedly harbored significant concerns about the safety and security of Pakistani nuclear facilities and weapons. These worries stem particularly from the country's internal instability and the potential for internal smuggling of materials or know-how, especially given the presence and historical activity of extremist elements within the country.
What specific steps has the U.S. taken in response to these concerns? Have they offered any assistance?
The U.S. has indeed provided substantial material assistance over the years, amounting to approximately $100 million according to some reports. This aid package has included crucial items like helicopters for moving security forces, advanced night vision equipment, sophisticated nuclear detection equipment for border security, and funding for the establishment of nuclear security training centers. They've also helped with enhanced perimeter fencing, intrusion detectors, and modern personnel identification systems for nuclear sites, and helped Pakistan develop a modern export control regulatory regime to prevent the outward flow of sensitive materials.
But they still declined the USPL technology.
Yes, as we discussed earlier, while Pakistan famously turned down the direct offer of Permissive Action Link, PAL technology from the U.S., it is widely believed to have developed and implemented its own indigenous version. Despite these cooperative efforts, press reports from around 2009-2010 indicated persistent U.S. worries about Islamists potentially stealing material. Quite strikingly, these reports suggested the U.S. was even training elite units specifically for potential recovery operations in such a contingency.
Training U.S. troops to potentially recover Pakistani nukes. That's serious.
It indicates the level of concern at the time.
And how do independent external studies assess this risk, especially compared to Pakistan's assurances?
Well, a prominent study by Harvard's Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs, titled Securing the Bomb 2010, reached a rather stark conclusion. It stated that Pakistan's stockpile faces a greater threat from Islamic extremists seeking nuclear weapons than any other nuclear stockpile on Earth.
A greater threat than any other countries.
That was their assessment, yes. Amplified by the sheer number of domestic and transnational terrorist organizations estimated to be operating within Pakistan, some sources put it at 46. And the concern isn't purely theoretical. There have been documented sophisticated attacks on heavily guarded military sites in Pakistan, such as the Kamra Air Base attack, highlighting the persistent internal threat.
So how does Pakistan respond to these external assessments?
Pakistan has consistently dismissed these external concerns, firmly affirming its robust regime and multi-layered mechanisms. They point to their large security apparatus and technical safeguards. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, for its part, declared Pakistan's nuclear program safe and secure back in 2011, and Pakistan is actually a significant contributor to the IAEA's Nuclear Security Fund.
So a real divergence in perception there.
Absolutely. It highlights a persistent gap between Pakistan's confidence in its security and the worries expressed by some international observers. This tension remains a key point of discussion in international security circles.
Pakistan's nuclear program is often discussed in the context of international cooperation or perhaps proliferation. What do our sources tell us about where they allegedly received assistance for such complex technological development?
This is a particularly sensitive area, naturally. And what's intriguing here is the long history of allegations regarding transfers and technical assistance, despite consistent denials from essentially all parties involved. Our sources, particularly reflecting U.S. intelligence assessments over the years, indicate that the principal source often cited for assistance to Pakistan's nuclear and, especially missile programs, is China.
China, again. What specifically has China been accused of providing, and how has Beijing responded to these claims?
China has been repeatedly charged by the U.S. government, over decades really, with transferring missile technology and related materials to Pakistan. U.S. officials reportedly confronted Chinese counterparts multiple times, presenting what they described as powerful intelligence evidence of these transfers. Despite this, China has consistently denied any direct sales of weapon parts or complete missile systems. They maintain that they only supply civil-purpose nuclear power plants, like the Chi-H-Nik-Pyo-Bond commercial reactor agreed upon in 1986 and supplied in 1989.
But unofficial reports suggest more.
Numerous unofficial reports, particularly in Western media, allege a far more extensive role for China. These include claims of major assistance in establishing Pakistan's atomic bomb development infrastructure, the alleged transfer of weapon-grade, highly enriched uranium early on, and even a supposed or putative Chinese-assisted nuclear test conducted for Pakistan in the 1980s, though that remains unconfirmed. More recently, in 2020 and again in 2024, reports surfaced of dual-use items equipment that has both civilian and military applications being intercepted en route from China to Pakistan.
What kind of items?
Things like an industrial autoclave, which can be used in missile production, and a specialized computer numerical control (CNC) machine tool. The U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency's 2025 assessment continues to cite China as the principal source of materials and technologies supporting Pakistan's broader weapons of mass destruction programs. China, of course, denies these allegations.
Beyond China, which other countries have been implicated maybe less prominently in providing assistance to Pakistan's nuclear and missile programs over the years?
North Korea is another country frequently alleged to have secretly supplied Pakistan with ballistic missile technology, particularly for missiles like the Gauri. This was reportedly part of a quid pro quo, with Pakistan allegedly providing nuclear weapons technology or know-how in return. Our sources indicate that the Benazir Bhutto government, in particular, pursued engineering education and training on rockets with North Korea, suggesting a direct exchange of expertise and possibly hardware.
A missiles for nukes swap, basically?
That's the allegation, yes. Both countries deny it vehemently. Additionally, declassified U.S. documents from 1982 suggest alleged efforts by Pakistan at that time to obtain suspicious procurements, potentially dual-use items from a range of European and Asian countries, including Belgium, Finland, Japan, Sweden, and Turkey. There was also a notable French offer in 1990 to supply a large 900 milliwatt commercial nuclear power plant, though this was later canceled due to significant U.S. diplomatic pressure and also Pakistan's own financial constraints at the time.
The U.S. pressured France to cancel.
Yes, non-proliferation pressure. Similarly, the Soviet Union apparently considered supplying a nuclear power plant around 1990, but this too was ultimately canceled. Beyond direct transfers, analysts have pointed out striking visual and technical similarities between certain Pakistani missile designs and those of Chinese cruise missiles, and even the U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile, hinting at possible external influences on their design and development pathways, perhaps through espionage or reverse engineering.
So a complex web of alleged cooperation despite official denials.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a potentially complex and covert international network that may have significantly contributed to Pakistan's nuclear and missile advancements over the decades.
We spent a lot of time on the Nasser, Pakistan's tactical nuclear weapon. But what does history, specifically the Cold War experience of the US and Soviet Union, tell us about the real-world challenges and complexities of actually using such weapons on a battlefield?
This brings us to a crucial area of operational complexity, often glossed over in strategic discussions. The experiences of the U.S. and Soviet Union with tactical nuclear weapons during the Cold War offer invaluable, though certainly imperfect, parallels to Pakistan's current situation. During the Cold War, the U.S. military heavily invested in tactical nuclear weapons, TNWs, with the explicit goal of blunting a potentially massive Soviet conventional offensive in Central Europe. Their doctrine considered specific conditions for use.
Like what? When would they have actually used them?
Conditions included things like a severe lack of conventional reinforcements arriving, the imminent survivability of the defending force being gravely in question, intelligence indicating an impending enemy nuclear strike, or simply the desperate need for overwhelming combat power to prevent a complete rout.
So, pretty dire circumstances.
Extremely dire. And it graphically illustrated a clear use them or lose them dilemma.
Use them or lose them?
Yes, where commanders felt immense pressure to escalate early to employ their tactical nukes before their conventional forces were excessively attrited or overrun, or before the weapons themselves were destroyed by enemy action. Our sources indicate that Pakistan military leadership has privately acknowledged examining the NATO experience as they develop their own national military strategy and doctrine that now incorporates tactical nuclear weapons.
Learning from the Cold War experience.
Trying to, yes. The Pakistan Army Doctrine from 2011 explicitly states that nuclear capability is aimed at complementing comprehensive deterrence and inflicting unacceptable losses on the aggressor. This clearly signals an intent to reinforce conventional deterrence with TNWs. However, much like the Cold War U.S. found, Pakistan's doctrine for TNWs is described by analysts as very much a work in progress. This suggests they are still actively grappling with the full practical and operational implications of integrating these weapons into their conventional defense plans. It's a daunting intellectual and operational challenge.
Beyond doctrine, what about the sheer operational aspects, particularly command, control, and communications, often referred to as C3? How do these challenges manifest for a nation like Pakistan, especially in a potential conflict?
The operational complexities regarding C3 are immense and often seriously underestimated. During the Cold War, the command, control, and communication sequence for nuclear release was notoriously complex, often involving multiple layers of authorization from political leaders down to the launch crews. Estimates suggest that it could take upwards of 24 hours to actually execute a release order, a timeline consistently deemed grossly optimistic by experts, especially under the fog and friction of actual combat.
24 hours seems like an eternity in a fast-moving battle.
It is. And a constant concern was the degradation of C3 systems themselves. They can be vulnerable to conventional attack, sophisticated electronic warfare jamming, cyber attacks, or even the electromagnetic pulse EMP effects from their own side's nuclear use inadvertently frying friendly communications equipment.
So using a nuke could blind your own forces.
It's a very real possibility. Pakistan faces very similar, if not potentially amplified, vulnerabilities. Its C3 systems are susceptible to EMP effects and potential Indian electronic or cyber attacks aimed at disrupting their ability to command and control their forces. Furthermore, the possibility of Indian Special Operations Forces targeting critical C3 nodes or even the physical weapons themselves in a preemptive strike is a constant palpable concern that must factor into their planning. This creates a very fragile command and control situation in a crisis.
And how about the security of these weapons in peacetime? We talked about internal measures, but given the internal challenges Pakistan faces, this must be a constant worry, linking back to the Cold War parallels.
Peacetime stockpile security presents another profound contradiction, yes. During the Cold War, nuclear storage sites in Europe were always seen as vulnerable to Warsaw Pact special operations attacks or even terrorist threats. There was a famous Red Army faction attack attempt in Germany in 1977 where they tried to capture a nuclear weapon. The inherent dilemma is always balancing the imperative of ensuring absolute security in peacetime, keeping weapons locked down, versus maintaining high operational availability in wartime, which requires dispersing them.
Because dispersal makes them more survivable, but also potentially less secure.
Exactly. And rapid dispersal, while necessary for survivability during conflict, could easily be misinterpreted by the other side as an escalatory move during a tense crisis, potentially triggering the very conflict you're trying to avoid. Pakistan faces these identical challenges, compounded by its unique internal environment. As mentioned, estimates suggest Pakistan hosts dozens of domestic and transnational terrorist organizations operating within its borders. There have been documented attacks on heavily guarded military sites, like the Kamra Air Base attack, highlighting the persistent internal threat, even against hardened targets.
So even with code locks and two-man roles.
While Pakistan claims its nuclear warheads are fitted with code-locked devices and likely employs a two-man rule, the successful operationalization and, crucially, the maintenance of these security measures amidst ongoing internal instability remains a significant concern for external observers and, frankly, for anyone concerned about regional stability.
Pakistan's unique geography presents particular challenges when it comes to the deployment and potential use of tactical nuclear weapons, doesn't it? It's not like the vast distances that often characterize the Cold War's European theater.
This is a truly critical point, and one that often gets overlooked. What becomes starkly clear when you look at a map is how incredibly close Pakistan's major population centers, economic hubs, and military staging areas are to the Indian border. This proximity drastically shrinks decision-making time and profoundly raises the stakes for any potential battlefield nuclear use. Consider this. Islamabad, the capital, is less than 300 kilometers from the border.
300 kilometers, that's not far at all in missile terms?
Not at all. And Lahore, a massive city and cultural heartland, is only about 25 kilometers away, right on the doorstep.
25 kilometers, that's incredibly close. How does that impact their strategic depth, or maybe the lack of it?
It means Pakistan has very, very limited strategic depth compared to, say, Russia or the U.S. during the Cold War. There is simply little physical space to withdraw or maneuver during conventional hostilities before they might feel their core territory is existentially threatened, potentially pushing them towards escalation much faster. The extremely short range of systems like the Nasser, at just 70 kilometers, dramatically exacerbates this problem.
How so?
Any employment of these Nasser systems, even if targeted precisely at an advancing Indian conventional force on Pakistani soil, carries an extremely high probability of the nuclear fallout, blast effects, or EMP effects drifting back onto Pakistani territory, causing immense collateral damage to their own population and infrastructure.
So using a tactical nuke defensively could still devastate their own land.
It's a very real and horrifying prospect.
So they're caught in a truly profound and dangerous dilemma here, aren't they? It sounds almost impossible.
It's exactly. Pakistani military and political leaders are likely faced with that classic, agonizing dilemma we discussed, using their tactical nuclear weapons very early in a conflict to try and stem an Indian conventional assault, potentially on their own territory, or risking losing those weapons entirely due to outright destruction from a swift conventional attack if they wait too long. And the third, equally devastating option is the prospect of detonating nuclear weapons on their own soil with severe and perhaps politically unacceptable collateral damage.
A strategic nightmare.
It is. This unique geographic reality fundamentally alters the risk calculus for employing TNWs compared to the Cold War context. In Central Europe, vast distances provided somewhat more maneuver room and decision time, however illusory. For Pakistan, this forces extremely compressed decision-making cycles in a crisis and amplifies the consequences of any miscalculation to an almost unbearable degree. It's a strategic knife edge they're walking.
So, looking ahead then, what's next for Pakistan's nuclear and missile program? Based on everything we've discussed, what trends should we be watching in terms of their continued development and strategic focus?
This raises a critical question about the persistent growth and diversification of Pakistan's arsenal, which continues to profoundly shape India's threat perception and the broader regional security dynamic. From the current trends evident in our sources, it's pretty clear that Pakistan's nuclear missile development program aims squarely at building that robust nuclear triad and achieving what they call full-spectrum deterrence, is not only expected to continue but likely to aggressively expand in the coming years.
What are the specific areas of focus for this expansion likely to be? Where are they pouring their resources?
Pakistan will almost certainly continue to focus on developing and strengthening several key missile systems. This includes continued emphasis on the Nasser tactical nuclear weapon, which we've discussed at length, for battlefield use. There's significant investment likely continuing in the Ababil missile with its claimed MIRV technology, which is crucial for ensuring survivability against increasingly sophisticated Indian missile defenses.
Getting those multiple warheads through.
That's the goal. Further advancements in the longer-range Shaheen series of ballistic missiles are also a clear priority, extending their strategic reach. On the air-launched front, we'll likely see continued development of extended-range air-launched cruise missiles like the Rahad-2. And critically, they are clearly heavily reinforcing their sea-based deterrent with systems like the Babur 3 SLCM striving for that guaranteed second strike capability.
And this is all happening quickly.
Our sources indicate that the rapid pace of development, potentially combined with alleged ongoing external assistance, primarily suggested to be from China, means that these new capabilities could be operationalized relatively quickly, even though many systems will still require further testing to ensure reliability and precision. This rapid progression means a constantly evolving and, for many observers, an increasingly unpredictable threat landscape for the entire region.
What are the broader implications of these relentless developments for India and the South Asian region as a whole? What's the bottom line here for stability?
Well, when we put this into the broader regional context, it's clear that Pakistan's nuclear and missile developments are intrinsically India-centric. There's no question about that. They are designed with the explicit purpose of deterring India's growing air and missile defense capabilities, as well as attempting to offset India's significant conventional military superiority. The particular emphasis Pakistan places on short-range, potentially dual-capable systems like the Nasser, Abdali, and Ghaznavi is a major source of concern for regional stability.
Why those specifically?
Because their potential use in what might start as a limited conventional war could drastically lower the nuclear threshold. It blurs the line between conventional and nuclear conflict in a very dangerous way. This could easily lead to rapid, uncontrollable escalation and profound strategic instability. It creates an incredibly dangerous escalation ladder with potentially catastrophic consequences.
And what would be the specific effect on India's threat perception? How does this alter their strategic planning?
India's threat perception is almost certainly going to increase significantly, especially if Pakistan's claimed MIRV capability, potentially developed with China's assistance, is fully operationalized and deployed. MIRV technology, as we discussed, provides the attacking state with a potential disarming counterforce strike capability, meaning the theoretical ability to target and destroy a significant portion of an opponent's nuclear forces before they can be used.
Which looks like a first strike capability.
It's exactly. It could be perceived by India not just as a retaliatory capability, but as a tool for a preemptive first strike. This would dramatically increase mutual threat perception and create heightened instability, potentially fueling an arms race dynamic. Moreover, the belief reportedly held by some in the Pakistani military leadership that TNWs effectively cancel out Indian conventional advantages is viewed by many international observers as extremely dangerous and profoundly problematic.
Why problematic?
Because this assumption posits that India's leadership, even after significant provocations like major terrorist attacks originating from Pakistan, think Mumbai 2008, would continue to show restraint and not retaliate conventionally in a decisive way for fear of nuclear escalation. This is an extremely risky gamble on Indian restraint, particularly given India's own stated potential for robust responses under certain circumstances and the more muscular approach to national security often articulated by its current leadership.
So what does this all mean for the future of deterrence and stability in South Asia? What's the ultimate takeaway for our listeners from all this complex information?
The continued development, production, and integration of tactical nuclear weapons into military doctrine in this already volatile region is not simply a continuation of existing Cold War nuclear trends. It poses new and arguably far more severe dilemmas for crisis stability. The very presence of TNWs, coupled with the short distances and ongoing conflict potential, will naturally result in increased pressure on both India and Pakistan to escalate much more quickly during any future crisis. It shortens decision times drastically and raises the risk of catastrophic miscalculation based on incomplete information or flawed assumptions.
A recipe for disaster, potentially.
It certainly increases the risks dramatically. Therefore, it seems clear that Pakistan and India would do well to urgently consider tangible measures to reduce nuclear risks, things like improved communication hotlines, transparency measures, and perhaps doctrines that raise rather than lower the nuclear threshold. Creating reliable channels for crisis management is absolutely essential to prevent unintended escalation. As observed vividly in Cold War history and simulations, the operational challenges and dangers of tactical nuclear weapons grow exponentially with scale and proximity. They can potentially create far more problems, command issues, security risks, escalation dangers than they supposedly solve strategically. And perhaps that's a provocative thought for you, our listeners, to consider. As Pakistan continues down this path of expanding and diversifying its arsenal, particularly with tactical nuclear weapons, what are the most significant, perhaps unforeseen, risks to regional stability that policymakers on all sides must urgently address before a crisis forces their hand?
And that brings us to the end of our exploration of Pakistan's nuclear and missile capabilities. We've unpacked a truly complex set of documents and analyses today, and we really hope this has given you a clearer, perhaps more nuanced understanding of this critical strategic landscape.
This discussion, I hope, raises that important question for you to consider. As Pakistan continues to expand and diversify its arsenal, particularly with these tactical nuclear weapons, what are the most significant risks to regional stability that policymakers truly must grapple with?
Thank you for listening to the Global Warwatch Network. If you found this discussion insightful, please do like, share, and subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network. We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this complex topic, so please share them in the comment section below. You can also join us on social media. All the links are provided in the description.